everyone, and welcome to the Ion Canon podcast, your home for in-depth discussion on lore, the narrative, and the big ideas of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Joel, and I'm coming to you live from Star Wars Underworld, Orange County, and joining me across the country, but still a little bit in the frigid north, is our good friend Chris, aka Star Raptor. How you
Yeah,
doing? How's the Haas tundra? If it's still
yeah,
where
I
you are.
really. And I'm out there shoveling 2 days ago. I'm like, this is like them digging the trenches of Hoth, ready for battle against the AT-ATs out here, looking for some snow troopers and some tauntauns riding by because that's how it feels right now. It's like 15 degrees. It is just the dead of winter here. Um, but it's one of those nights where you're like, yeah, I want to just get home and have a hot cup of hot chocolate here.
Is the snow like really, really thick? Like it's like yee high?
Oh yeah, it's like this high.
Oh gosh,
It's
really?
we got a good 12 plus inches. Yeah, it's been crazy around here.
Damn. Well, yeah. I'm talking to Dominic Monday, and he's like, "Yeah, he got like the same thing." It's like I'm sure he and Matthew are like all snowy. Meanwhile, here I am in California. It's like, oh, we just have. It's a little cold. That's no. The day it snows in California, you know something bad has really happened to the world. Like, oh
That's
no.
right.
There we go. There's your climate change for you. All right. What is it like to be inside the mind of a droid? Well, Mike Chan wants to answer that question as well as a brotherly feud as we look at his latest novel, Star Wars Outlaws, Low Red Moon. But let's get some plugs out of the way as usual. Of course, you can follow us at the Ioncan Blue Sky, ioncan.bisky.social. You can also follow us on the Star Wars Underworld Blue Sky, Facebook, Twitter, sometimes, and of course the Discord, where this Friday we're going to do episodes 5 and 6 of The Mandalorian, Season 1, as we prep for Mando and Grogu and more. So yeah, be on the lookout for that as well. Chris, do you want to plug anything before we begin?
Yeah, sure. I'll plug my YouTube channel, youtube.com/StarRaptor, where I've put the aforementioned review of this novel spoiler free a week or so ago.
Nice, nice.
And I also have my continuing stuff with the Outer Rim Transition podcast. We'll be back this week talking about all the goodness of the Maul trailer for Maul Shadow Lord and whatnot. So yeah, tune in Sundays at 9 p.m. Or sorry, not 9 p.m. We go live at 9 p.m. here. 7 p.m. on my channel on Sundays. Every once in a while we'll go live and do that stuff over there. But yeah, twitter.com/StarRaptor is also a place where you'll find my up to the minute thoughts on video games, Star Wars, and more. So Star Raptor on Twitter and X.
Nice, nice. It was funny. I think it was the week of the last when we did the Kylo Ren Legacy Vader finale. When we came off camera, you were saying like, "Oh, I don't have much news. We might talk about that Kennedy rumor, but I don't know how much time we're gonna give it." And then the next day, the rumor was confirmed. I found that hilarious. So
Yeah, I know. That's not the first time. Every time I say something like just vaguely like, "Oh, we're not gonna get anything," that's when we get like stuff like we still haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg because like we took a week off this last week. And I was
Mhm.
like, yeah, all we did was the previous week, we talked about the actual breaking news. We didn't even get into the article yet. We're like, oh, we'll save like the stuff for inside the article with like the movie updates and all that for like another show.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know when we're going to get to it now because now we have a whole entire trailer from Maul. We're going to talk about it for a course of an hour. And then who knows what else might come 2 weeks after that. So we try to go like bi-weekly at this point, and it's been working out because we wait those 2 weeks and we always have a pile of news to talk about. So
Well, that's nice. That's nice. So, hey, hopefully you keep going. But yeah, be on the lookout for that and more. And of course, on Mondays we'll be doing Ion Can again, where we'll talk about Maul because we're going to talk about Maul in tandem. So
mm.
that's going to be fun as well. But all right, I think we spent good enough time. Let's get into this. Oh, that's the wrong thing.
Oh,
Oh, whoopsies. There we go. The spoiler review. Matthew made me say that this is a spoiler
yeah.
review. Spoilers. So you haven't read the book, well, you can't read the book just yet, I don't think, because we got. But spoiler review. So
February. When is
February,
this out? February 2nd, February 3rd?
yeah.
I have
So
the
this is a
exact date.
special spoiler review. So everyone, leave now. If you don't want to know ahead of time, go
The 3rd.
vamonos. Right. So yeah, let's just get into it and I'll just give kind of my overall impression. So I'm sure you'll probably trigger some memories as we talk about
Mm-hmm.
it. But I thought this book was pretty good overall. I think if there's kind of like three kind of key things I really like about it. one. It's funny enough, it's the same thing that Star Wars Outlaws was really good at. Just the world building. I
Yeah.
really love the use of the world building in this book as well as the game with just showing the criminal networks, the ISB, how the Empire and the criminal networks kind of all form together. Some very good cameos, by the way, from some characters who I was surprised to see. One in particular we'll get into a little bit later. Um, ND, of course, I love ND5. He was great. Just trying to see a separatist commando droid, which, by the way, I loved in the game that they used a commando droid. That was so cool, and kind of seeing him kind of develop a personality over time. And then we can kind of get into the spoilery of it all. Because this book, just to warn you about the book itself, will spoil a big twist at the end of Outlaws. It's
Yeah.
kind of based off that twist at the end of Outlaw. So you kind of want to play Outlaw before reading the book because you'll get the twist spoiled. I mean, do what you want to do, of course. I'm sure people who are reading this book probably have played the game, so I can't see you not knowing. But in case you don't, it spoils the big twist at the end of
Mm.
Roland and his brother Slero. And kind of how they had their falling out, to say it nicely. And I really liked the depth it gave these brothers. Because we can kind of start here. You
Hmm.
know, I always saw, when at the end of that twist, I always saw that, Jalen was just kind of like the bratty brother who, also kind of treated Slero like dirt. And Slero just, hated the whole family. It's like you thought at first, oh, Slero just probably hated the whole family, and the whole family were jerks. And then you kind of realize as you read the beginning of the book, and this is where I really like the first half of the book quite a lot. That was my favorite part of. No, actually, Jalen kind of tried. I mean, how successful,
Hmm.
how sensitive he was, you could debate, but he did try to make Slero part
Yeah.
of the family, treat him like a brother. And it's like you almost feel bad where it's like, oh, if Slero had maybe just stayed the course, the brothers could have defeated the nasty parents, and it's finally just reconciled. But no, Slero had to, you know, join the Empire and betray the family. Um, and I guess that also kind of showed because I went in the game, and I'm just thinking about this now. I'm kind of talking out loud, where he
Hmm.
goes to Slero I was the heir. He said it very loudly and frantically. At first, I thought that was I was gonna get all the money, kind of that's how I viewed it. But now reading this book, I'm like, oh, he really did feel betrayed by his brother, who he did try at least a little bit. So I really like that part, and that's why I think the first half of the book for me is probably the strongest when we just kind of see the brothers. But overall, what were your thoughts and anything you want to add to it?
Yeah. This is. Oh man, this is such an interesting book.
Hmm.
And I was trying to talk my best around this on my spoiler-free review, which was very difficult because I was just saying blankly, do not read this game unless you play the game, unless you
Hmm.
want to have the ending, the big climax spoiled, which is so odd to say. How
Yeah.
do you construct a Star Wars book and just tell people right away that they're going to get spoiled by something in a video game? It's very weird. And,
Mhm,
fast forwarding to the end of the book,
mhm.
where the book unfortunately falls apart for me is if you are one person and there's a small subset of people that play the games.
Mhm,
It's probably a smaller subset of people read than they play the games, whatever. But let's say Outlaws, right?
mhm.
If you didn't play Outlaws, you would have no idea what the heck is happening at the end of this book.
Talk about the epilogue with
Long, but with the conclusion of it all, it's like, oh yeah, it ends where it's like the last time we see Jalen is when he puts the restraining ball on ND, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is horrible. He's having his sentience, basically his decisions are taken away from him. It's this very melancholy kind of ending. And then you get the epilogue where it's like, hey, here's a bunch of here's this character and stuff going on that has no context with the rest of the book. And then you're sitting there going, why does ND suddenly not have his restraining bolt on? It could have been fixed if Mike Chen could have just put in maybe a couple paragraphs about how ND is reminiscing about his fallen compatriot Jalen and about how he betrayed him and all. There's nothing of that.
Mhm.
The ending rung so hollow for me because I'm like, this doesn't really feel like an ending. And I know you could just say, oh, go play the game, but
Mhm.
not everybody's going to do that. And that's my biggest like thing about this whole. It opens up a whole can of worms. We're going. I believe that a Star Wars story should be compartmentalized in the thing you're reading. You shouldn't have to go to another medium, especially to find out how the thing ends. Like you have to put this piece that the book is like you're putting a puzzle piece together to get the full story. And I'll just cut to the chase here. I can't really recommend the book because it just, as much as I enjoyed it at certain parts, if I'm going by my principles of, oh, I have to read this all in one, and I can't have to go anywhere else to get the ending, this just doesn't land, unfortunately, neat enough for me to go, oh, yeah, I really recommend this because somebody's going to get confused out there probably and be like, what's happening here? Because I know I sure was, and I've played the game.
Yeah, it's an interest. I mean, that's certainly a good principle to have, especially it's certainly one of those things where like I mean, I guess where like how tied into things should always things be to certain maybe like a prologue of just Andy because in Andy's head, right? This is
Yeah,
there's a lot of first person chapters of like maybe Andy's head. We kind of begin like this is the story of how I was betrayed. It's sort of like how in certain stories begin like
yeah,
this is this tale of how I died. I think that's how Battlestar Galactica starts. No, it's basically or something like that. Where it's like something like that. Just kind of maybe like a little thing to kind of indicate, oh, this is maybe like kind of like this is the story of how I lost my freedom, and then I got it back. Well, actually, no, that'd be the game. But something like that, I guess. But no, I understand. Yeah, it's definitely. I would agree. I wouldn't recommend this book to the average book reader in general. I definitely my caveat would be: did you like Star Wars Outlaws? Yes.
yeah,
Play the did you like then read this.
hmm
I definitely and while I do think probably more
yeah,
people did play Star Wars Outlaws than probably read this book, because I kind of agree with you. I think kind of like games have a little bit of
yep.
higher margin of fans who or just people in general who will play them compared to just books and comics in general,
Yeah.
sadly. Um I do think I would caveat this with like, did you like this book? Did you like Outlaws? Yes, read the book. It's sort of like, what's funny?
Mm.
It's kind of like, although I think this book is stronger, the Bad Batch novel. Because I love that Bad Batch novel. That was probably
Oh, that thing is amazing.
but, but, I also would say you probably need to like or watch Bad Batch before you would read it, right? Like,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
I wouldn't recommend this to just like here's a you read Bad Batch. No, do you like Bad Batch? No, I don't think you'll like the book. But if you like Bad Batch and watch Bad Batch, and here you go, you'd love this. So it's a little like that. Although I think that book's just overall a stronger whole than this. But that being said, I do like again a lot of the additions it adds to the characters.
Mm,
Um, Again, I think the first act is pretty
yeah.
strong. That's
Oh,
like
yeah.
I love seeing the brothers and you kind of I just that Barsha family, they're
Oh,
jerks. I hate
oh,
them.
man.
What
Yeah.
what do you think of the Barsha the
Oh, I
Barshas?
absolutely loved it.
Mhm, mhm.
I wrote that in my notes. Like, this feels like Harry Potter and the Dudleys. It
Yeah,
really does. Like,
Harry Potter if
obviously,
he joined the
Sliro,
Death Eaters at the end and turned on the Dursleys.
like Sliro is in place of Harry Potter, and like Dudley is Jalen, right? And you have the mother and the father, and they just absolutely, the mother is just does everything in her power to just make it known that this guy is a piece of crap.
Mhm.
And I'm surprised that he is even living in their same house. I know he lives in a different room. He doesn't. And the thing that was so horrible is like, you're going to get less than half of everything he gets.
I
So
know.
they got two Fathiers, and well, it's like, oh, well, you can't make less than half. Okay, you're going to get two of them. You're going to get both of them, Jalen. And then
Mhm.
he's like there with his brother, like, and he's not even supposed to be meeting his brother like one on one. Like, it is crazy how that happened. But I liked, you're right, like talking about what this book does. Like my three takeaway points before we'll jump back into Act One
Sure,
here
sure, sure.
is best droid characterization maybe ever in the history of Star Wars books that I've at least read.
Mhm,
Phenomenal job. I think Jalen, just a great fleshed out character.
mhm.
Real world funny situations that we'll talk about. Amazing spy espionage action.
Mm-hmm.
that is reminiscent of Andor,
Oh yeah.
and some really cool like existential stuff for droids, like nature versus nurture for droids for ND, like
Mm-hmm.
really good stuff there. So like I just wanted to mention those off the top because I want to make sure people know that this is a well written book, but it's just its construction, which might have also been outside of
Mm-hmm.
the rank of Mike Chen. He might have just been mandated to be like, this is what needs to be put in the book. Do this now. You have no say. So I
This
can't
is
say it's his fault. You know what I
this is
mean?
very much a tie-in book in both the best and worst
Yes,
ways. Right,
exactly,
and
exactly.
because
I would,
it's very tied into the game, and you can kind of probably
uh,
tell there were rules. But Mike Chen is a very good author. He can kind of he's doing his best to navigate, and he almost gets there.
yeah, I
It's
was
just
telling Matthew,
mhm,
and this is why I never judge a book by until I complete it. I was about 30 or 40 pages away from the end. I said this is probably the best Star Wars tie-in novel for like
mhm,
a video game. And then I got to the end and I was like, oh, I gotta take that back because that just didn't land like the plan I wanted it to land. And I guess the next best one would have been Inferno Squad, with the prequel to the Battlefront 2 Inferno Squad with Iden Versio. That was a really good book. Talk about building up a character
mhm,
and the squad and getting them to have feelings and emotion. That was really good. And we do that here. He does that here with the character of Jalen and ND. And
mhm,
going back to the first arc, I love it because it
yeah,
shows something we haven't really dealt with Star Wars. It's just like,
mhm,
okay, what is it like to be like an heir to like a corporation essentially,
mhm.
and like the CEO and then these people. I love the story how they're
Rich
bringing in
people.
the lore from the Clone Wars, and it's like that transition period where it's like they are making luxury cruise liners, and then they're suddenly making like these parts for like the Republic Venator class Star Destroyers, and
Mhm,
then they're getting these commissions to work on Star Destroyers for the Empire. It
mhm,
was a really cool idea to like, let's build out this family structure and have the backdrop of the formation of the empire. And you're seeing the TK, no, you're seeing clone troopers instead of stormtroopers because that's how early we are to the empire. So, like you were saying before, and I gotta agree with you on that one. The world building in this story is so good. It
mhm,
feels so fresh. This feels a lot of the times it didn't quite feel like Star Wars in a way that I'm used to, but it does such a good job of again like shining a light on bureaucracy and these other forms that we know exist in Star Wars, and
mhm.
that's why novels like this excel and why we need them is because they are doing things that the TV series, the animated series, even the comics cannot do with this medium. Is really shining a light, getting into the details there.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments in that first act is when the clones come in to like the ceremony, I guess, or the kind of
Yep.
because what I really love about it is it shows, and this is when we get some real world stuff. It really shows like that just because you're a rich person under the Republic, the Empire does not care. If they think you're a threat, they're gonna come in full force. You can have all the money in the world, but if Palpatine or the Empire, one of the Empire's like they want you gone, they'll send in the clones and the troops and arrest you or worse, right? And I love that moment of just these just kind of show just how like power is just shifting now from like these old rich people to like the new rich people. For it's like, oh, hey, we're important. Like, yeah, well, Palpatine doesn't think so anymore. The ISB no longer thinks so. So you're out, right? House arrest, and then eventually probably worse. That was just such a great moment of just some really real world stuff about hey, the Empire is this new thing, so it doesn't matter what your status was before. We can change that now. New people
Yep.
are going to take your place, maybe new Moffs or whoever's. So I love that moment. We're nationalizing Barshakor to make Star
Yeah.
Destroyers. So
Yeah.
that was a great
Um,
moment.
I definitely want to talk about from
Hmm.
Act One. Oh man, I'm looking through my notes for the actual planet, but there's the moon of Corellia.
Hmm.
You talked about house arrest, and they will pick up from there. They go to this planet, this moon, and they get off kind of easy. They're just like there's like 12 of them or something like that, maybe a little bit more. The family line that was the cousins and uncles,
Hmm.
aunts, stuff. They're just, and it's like these people are brain dead. Like it shows greed and it shows the ineptness of people that sometimes have all this money. And it's just like a good, I think there's a lot of good commentary on our, real world situations here in this novel that Mike Chen illustrates perfectly and depicts perfectly because like you got the father and he's like, this is supposed to be a punishment, and he's enjoying it more than he should. Because he's sitting there and he's like watching like Star Wars' version of football. And he's like, oh, this is like the best life I didn't know existed for me. I don't have to worry about the work stress. I'm just gonna sit here and watch Blitzball or whatever the heck they call it. It's like
Retirement early, yay.
stuff like that. I'm like, oh, this is the absolute lazy scum of the galaxy. This is what it comes down to. These people are horrible. So I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
I mean, no, it's so true. I mean, it. I mean, I remember. I mean, there are real life examples sometimes of like in the early. I mean, it's a form of denial sometimes, as well as just just laziness, where it's sort of like, oh, we're under house arrest in our nice mansion, so it's sort of like, oh, but we're rich, so they won't dare to kill us eventually,
Yeah.
and it's like they just kind of believe, oh, we'll either get off easy or, we'll just stay here forever and it's fine. We live in a big mansion, plenty of time to walk, and just how out of touch they all are. And it's almost kind of amazing how Jalen, I think while despite he has his problems, of course, I mean, again, we can debate and kind of question how genuine he ever was with Slero. I like to think he kind of was. I think his heart was in the right place, even if I don't think he truly got it. But it is kind of goes to show just how Jalen kind of saw through the decadence of his family in a lot of ways. Like he kind of realized, wait a minute, something's off here. He was kind of one of the few people to kind of not be completely just slobbish about it, outside of I guess Slero, who probably is even more kind of cutthroat because he had to fight for everything to the point where
Yeah.
he joined the ISB just to call up to say, like, hey, my family turned on the Empire. Here you go, kill everyone. So that was interesting. I will ask because again, this is kind of goes back to the tie-in twist problem at the end, or semi problem, is that how did you feel about them making the betrayal kind of a mystery throughout it? Because when I was reading it, I'm like, well, I know that eventually Jalen has to find out, so it kind of
Yeah.
feels like why are we kind of, I mean, I get, like, why are we kind of just making it a mystery from their perspective? I mean, we're getting some good depth, but we know, oh, if you played the game, you already know Slero betrayed them. So it's sort of like I'm reading this and kind of going like,
Yeah.
I kind of wish we could see Slero, what Slero's up to. Why are we hiding him? We know he did it, or at least I as the person. So again, I guess maybe that kind of gets into the whole problem of like, we are playing it a little too much like people aren't gonna know because I know Slero did it. I bet you I know who
Yeah.
sent ND5 to kill them. So,
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
No, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, why is this so predictable right now? Like,
right.
I literally wrote down the same thing. I was like, this is a very predictable element here. What are we doing? And I would, and then you brought up a good point. I would have loved to see Slero rising through the ranks of the ISB. I thought that would have been really cool to see as like a juxtaposition of
Hmm.
Jalen rising through the ranks of the underworld, right?
Right.
And again, I feel like with these Star Wars stories, and it goes back to Battlefront 2, um, I want to see like more Imperial stories where people are rising through the ranks because just when you think in Battlefront 2, like you're getting a story about a legit hard-edged Imperial soldier, she ends up turning tail and joining the rebellion before things get interesting. So I don't know. Hopefully Lucasfilm one of these days will just like make an Imperial Commando book or something like that, or just anything in that realm. Maybe I've read every canon novel. I'm sure I've maybe forgotten a storyline, or maybe that has been a thing.
Catalyst
I
is
get
pretty good with Krennic rising through the ranks a little bit.
that is that okay. So there you go. There are some out there. There are some out. Even with the Master of Evil book, you have the Royal Guard captain, so you get to see from his perspective. Although that didn't last very long. Again, he turns tail and kind of has his own thing at a certain point there. But
Mhm,
yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting. I think, jumping off of this point,
mhm.
one of the best parts of this novel was just how imposing and terrifying they make the BX commando droids. Like I now see them in a whole new light thanks to Mike Chen, because these guys I thought of the T1000 Terminator, whatever they're called, Terminator, right?
Mhm.
Like that was what I was thinking about when he was going through, and it was just an amazing moment when Mike Chen builds in the idea that, oh, these people have like there's this droid that's tracking people and they have the red lights. And it was this really good element where all of a sudden you have Jalen just hanging out because he wants to get away from everybody. It's like, oh yeah, why are these red lights disappearing? And it's like ominous feeling like, oh man, these people are getting offed one by one. It is like Sam Fisher's Splinter Cell. These people are getting killed left and right. And it was just this really good tension that I haven't really read in a Star Wars book in a very long time. So kudos to Mike Chen for really pulling off such an awesome moment that had me terrified reading this part. I'm like, oh man, this is frightening. So what'd you think about that moment?
Yeah, it's interesting thinking of just the commando droids in general, going back to rookies all those
Mhm.
years ago when I was a wee lad. Like their first appearance and kind of seeing, oh, they are kind of more competent than the average battle droid. Um, but obviously, Clone Wars is still kind of for a specific audience and kind of have to make it a little bit more lighthearted. Although there were some pretty tense moments with the Commando Droid Squad back in the day. But to really see kind of like intentional tension, to just kind of pick it off one by one, where it's like, and then yeah, really adds an extra layer. I love it whenever an author or even like a few on-screen things every now and then can make the battle droids look scary and not just be like, "Roger, Roger. Oh no, I just got promoted." Meh. I always appreciate some good battle droid uh, intimidation for once. And I do love the initial moments of like just seeing ND kind of wake up for the first time as a new cemented commando droid. Thinking got to report to General Grievous and all that good stuff. And uh, it's great. I love it. I mean, ND is such a cool character.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm like I finished the book and while I was a little bit dismayed by the ending, I did immediately go on, I think, Twitter, and I was like, I need more stories about ND5. Like, I want to see continuing adventures of this guy because, like, again, getting into his mindset, getting into the idea of a sentient droid, and just having these different abilities, and then going through, and then the idea of like him finding out his programming and like relearning certain things, and like piloting ships at a certain point and slicing things and whatnot. There's so much potential with this character. And one of the best things I can say about this book, and I'm sure its mission was, oh, I want to immediately go back and play Outlaws. Like I booted it up and I was running around on Tessera, just having fun, checking out ND5. Go, yeah, man, I know your full story now. I know what's going on here. Let's go on more adventures, right? Like there's that immediate draw in, which is of course what time materials for. It's supposed to pollinate, cross pollinate, and get people into the other things and pay for the other things.
Exactly.
But yeah, what an intro for this character. Had the bomb strapped to him. I thought that was a good moment of tension.
Oh yeah, I love how Jalen tries to has to eventually kind of get him out of his programming and stuff like that. But also the mystery of who sent you and all that. That was great. I mean, what I love about ND5 in general is again he's kind of like it's the reverse of the clones. Like there's so many good. There's a lot of that's what Bad Batch was, where it's like what are these clones now without the Clone Wars? But what are these droids without the Clone Wars, right? And they kind of have a worse fate, where it's just like they get scrapped. At least the clones kind of have to figure out where they want to live or not. Sometimes they're just spare change in the street, which is just sad. But the droids are just like, well, Anakin turned them all off, or they didn't, or they're just in scrap metal now. So it's sort of like this commando droid built for this one mission kind of now has to both reactivate and realize, well, what is my purpose now? What is my life after the Clone Wars without a separatist anymore to command me? No General Grievous to give orders. And
Yeah.
it's cool just kind of seeing him, both have these adventures, but also kind of befriend Jalen at first before it all kind of comes crashing down. It's very sad in that way too, where it's like, oh, he's making a friend, and then by the end, it's like, no, he's not. And the one thing I can say, at least for the epilogue, um, at the very least, is it's like at least nice to know that he feels loved by Kay. Like, okay, at least maybe now I found my friend. That's what I want to see. We'll never get Outlaws 2, but dang, I would love to see more Kay and ND, because like finally he's found a friend in a little mini family. So that was nice as well. Anything else about ND5's mind you'd like to get into?
Yeah, I mean, as far as just how he has to adapt on the fly to all these different skills, I think that's really cool to see his adaptability in
Hmm.
any situation that he has to come across. And we often find droids are meant to do just like one thing, like, oh, astromechs, they're mainly just to repair ships, or
Hmm.
like the B1 pilot droids, the guys are just there on the bridge and they're just doing their thing. Like,
Hmm.
nah, this guy, and he's able to learn. I think that was like the biggest thing for me, is like through his experiences, he's actually able to change, and that's where the drama comes in, because then Jalen goes, oh, if he does this and this and this, that means at any point he could just assassinate me. So I better get that straight bolt on him now, because that could happen at any moment. And it's just, you see that's not the case, but I guess in the game it does. See, I should have watched the ending cutscene on YouTube, or something before this review, because I would have liked to see comment on what exactly goes down in that moment, with the two brothers again, because it's been a while since I played the game. Um,
I do. I remember
yeah.
pretty well.
Okay, cool.
So, basically what happened at the end is Vader, kind of chews out Slero for
Yeah.
failing. And then you find out not only that they're brothers, but Jalen made a deal with Vader for the rebel location, in exchange for Zarek Besh, the criminal
Hmm.
syndicate that Slero created. That's an ISB front.
Yeah.
So basically, and Jalen pretty much just says, like, I want my empire that I was promised, right? Like, it's sort of like to get back to the corporation that he would never got to
Mm.
have. And then he kills Slero eventually after the confrontation, and he's like, shame, I didn't feel anything. So he's pretty much cold at that point, right? So Slero's
Wow.
dead. He kind of had that, like, oh, I didn't. I thought I would feel something. I didn't. And then he orders ND uh to kill K. I forget
Yeah.
if ND kills Jalen or not. Somebody does. 'Cause I know he probably
I'm
did.
pretty sure he does, actually, now that I remember it.
I don't remember if he had the bolt on him at the moment or if he puts it on him. I kind of forget that part too.
He has the bolt on him, I think, the whole time.
Okay,
And
so that
then in the fight against him, you take it off.
right. So in the
And
fight
then
against
now he doesn't have that to protect him, so then the ND was able to kill him.
okay, so that probably what happened. And then Kay and Indy, they escape,
Yeah.
and then one of the criminal organizations that you befriend helps you against the empire. Then you fly off, and then
Yeah.
game over.
Mm.
So that's what I remember happening. Uh, I guess, and also, kind of go back to Jalen for a hot second. It is interesting just how cold he'll become by the end when he kills Slero, because throughout the whole thing, and again, this kind of gets a little muddled because again, we know the ending, but I guess for we can't blame him for not playing the game. Is he's always wondering, where's Slero? Where's Slero? Where's my brother? And he does feel for him. It's like, what happened to you? Like, I do think he's legit worried at first, um, until he finds out, and I can kind of imagine maybe after years of worrying and then finding out, that's kind of where like he just shuts down. It's like, okay, this my brother's a dead man to me now. So I can kind of see where maybe that coldness comes from by the game, where he just shoots him and it's like, I didn't feel anything. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Um. Oh, did you want to say something before?
Oh, I want to talk a little bit more about Jalen,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for sure. I love this character. It's kind of a shame he's dead now, because I think there's like so much interesting things, and I'm like, there's a huge time jump. So there's
Mhm.
definitely now storytelling that like this guy can pop up in whatever comic or whatever it could be, because like So the
Mhm.
timeline jumps around. Like it's like it's like before Clone Wars, then like right at the end of Clone Wars. Then I want to say it's like a year or so after the Clone Wars, and then like around Solo. And then it jumps all the way to like the Empire Strikes Back era, I would imagine. So there's like a
Mhm.
10, at least a 10-year gap where we don't know what's going on with ND and Jalen at that point. So there's a lot of room for more stories. But what I love about the character is, again, something we haven't seen in a Star Wars anything, is what it takes for somebody to like lose it all. Like at the top of the food chain, you have the glory of the empire and all this bestowed upon you because you are in good graces with them because you helped build their starships. And at the drop of a hat, next thing you know, you're left for dead. What do you do? And the only thing he has access to is scrupulous kind of methods where it's he's have them find his way doing things that he shouldn't really be doing, and he just digs himself a deeper hole. But it's a really good case study on like how somebody would get integrated into the underworld way of doing things. I think the way he's written and the steps they take, each one of these like little missions along the way, gets him closer and closer, and he eventually gets his name recognized towards the end of the book. And he's like, "Oh, look at this moment, and D, like they actually know who we are." And I love that because it's an acknowledgement of like how far they've come over the last like 10 years at that point, of all these jobs they've been doing, from smuggling to assassination missions to information gathering. And I just absolutely love that transition of going from point A to point B over that amount of time, really getting to see a different take on the underworld. So I want to know what you have to say about that one.
Yeah, that's one of the things I also like about the book because, characters with kind of predetermined endings to some extent are hard to write in general because it's sort of like, well, nothing can really happen. They can't change that much unless you're kind of doing like the point A to point B situation. Like, that's why I think it was at least smart to not have Vader kind of be the primary point of view character for Mask of Evil because they're like, it's only going to take place after a couple of months, and Vader's not going to change that much. Compared to like doing, say, A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back Vader or something like that, or certain characters have to kind of stay static to a certain extent. You can only do so much. What I like about what they did with Jalen, it's like, yeah, they really started him from a very different place. He's not fully formed just yet. He's kind of nice, question mark, kind of very naive. He's freaking out about being the CEO. He doesn't feel prepared, and then he does lose it all. And, he kind of has to kind of come into himself as this new smuggler. I'm just crime. He's not really a crime lord, but he's a crime person, kind of a crime broker a little bit, just kind of doing stuff. And kind of forming into the character we know. And I think it really works because we have that big time jump, because we have sort of here's Jalen starts from wet behind the ears to Jalen as we see him in Outlaws and kind of ready to get revenge on his brother. I really like that. And I like seeing kind of him using what he learned or what little he learned to become a CEO to, wine and dine with the
Yeah.
smugglers and kind of,
Mm-hmm.
and also what's interesting is and this is something you probably will have to pick up on if you play the game again. It's like it's kind of like Kay in some ways, right? Where it's like her whole thing is she doesn't start from the top to bottom, but she kind of has to learn her way in the underworld to become a big deal. I mean, that's kind of the point of the game, right? Where you just
Yeah.
go to where
Yep.
you take missions, you meet up with the crime lords, you do your thing, and it's kind of like the dark side version of that, where you have Jalen and ND doing their thing, meeting up with the crime bosses and lords and stuff like that. The only difference, of course, is Kay is, well, for lack of a better term, she's kind of on the light side at the end of the day, and especially how she treats ND, where Jalen, for lack of a better term, again, falls to the dark side and kind of chooses a selfish like path of revenge at the end of the day. And I thought that was an interesting parallel as well, kind of seeing kind of again, it kind of makes Jalen and Kay mirrors of each other, and ND's kind of in between them, where one treats them with respect, the other treats them as a tool. I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah,
And
exactly. No, when it comes down to that, oh man, there's so much
mhm,
with if you feel sad for ND, it's just like as alive as he seems, it's like in the end, this guy, this droid is just a tool, and that's what we see. That's what's so soul crushing about it because there's so many moments in this novel that are like bright spots of a relationship where they really do feel like good
mhm.
buddies. But then there's always that lingering thought in the back of Jalen's mind, like, oh yeah, I can't get too close to this guy because he could kill me at any moment. So I got to keep an arm's distance away. Um, I love what you were talking about with bringing the skills of the CEO to the whole
Mhm.
situation, because that's my next point. Is this is not your typical Star Wars story. We're not running around with lightsabers. We're not going around shooting blasters constantly. There's actually very little action, but I feel like the pacing was so well done, and the conversations and the characters that would float in and out of the story, like Fennec Shan and Kira, it kept my appetite kind of, I was like going for more. Like, oh, this is great, this is great. I just love that. It's like, okay, we can have a character that doesn't have to be an action hero to carry a story with Jalen, and again, just like it's like the mob mentality, or it's like kind of like Smarts, it's like kind of like Sopranos or something like that, where you're going in, you're meeting with these people. How's he going to get out of this situation? What is he going to do? Blah blah blah. Really cool stuff there.
Yeah, like you said, it's less acting here. I feel like Jalen. Maybe I'm just remembering things. You know me, I have bad memory, but like I feel like Jalen was most of the time just had a cup of wine in his hand, a bottle of wine in his
Yeah,
hand as he was just dining with his fellow crime boss or crime person, right? Like, and that I don't know what CEOs do, but I know that CEOs have to have lunches with people.
yes,
I mean, obviously they have to run big organizations too. Jalen's kind of a one man show, but it's a very much you got to have your bedside manner. Um, and I think that's kind of what Jalen was all about. It was less about like infiltrating Imperial bases and stuff like that. It was more just like, hey, make a deal. I can do this, and then you can do this for me. Right? Like everybody wins, and I win the most. And that was cool as well. And again, this is another thing about the book I really like, and this is I think is also the strength of Outlaws. It's just showing all the crime underworld stuff that we have built up over the years with Star Wars. We have the Hutts, we have Crimson Dawn, we have the Pikes, we have the Droid Gotcha. I don't think they were in this book,
no,
but we have all the other crime bosses and families. Obviously, we show the ones from the game because it's the tie into the game. Um, but
oh,
I but
did,
oh,
did you have to interject real quick because it
oh,
got me like peaked up as a fan of Prince Zizor.
oh
We got
yeah.
our second Prince Zizor mentioned in the last 14 years of Star Wars canon,
Woo!
or 12 years, whatever it's been. I'm like, yes, acknowledge the crime lord. It's
Yeah, and
still salty that the Black Sun are such a big proponent in Star Wars, and how are they not in the game? Like,
oh, you're right.
I,
I'm surprised.
there was like maybe two data pads I found in the entire game that even mentioned Black Sun, but there's no Black Sun people around. There's no following characters anywhere to be seen. My only thing was like, oh, maybe they were like in the development of making them like the big antagonists in Outlaws 2, which apparently they were thinking about making, and then the first one didn't do so well, so they canned it. But yeah, it's like, all right, we got some inclusion of the Dark Prince in this one, so I was happy to see that he's alive and well.
I also was the cameo that surprised me the most was Fennec. Funny enough,
Yeah, we got to
going
talk
to
about her. That's a whole nother can of worms I want to open here.
because I was surprised to see her. I mean, I like seeing her. I like she's she hasn't completely fallen off just yet after Book of Boba Fett. She actually because she appeared in Bad Batch season 1 and 3,
Yeah,
and now she's in this book. So I'm glad she's a character who's kind of allowed to like
yeah.
kind of just be around. She doesn't have to have a big role. It's just like, hey, here's Fennec Shan. She's cool. Sometimes she let her pop up and do things from time to time and kind of get
Dude,
move the story forward.
this book gave us our best look at why she is so infamous and so well sought out for her price. That's what I'm talking about. This book has so many of those moments that where there could be some dead time as far as like action for a while. When the action gets to the climax, it's so good. So you're on this rooftop. Jalen's trying to impersonate this guy, and he is a little bit green at this point because he's still new to this all. And he's talking to this woman, and she's kind of swooning him, and he's kind of falling for her because it's an attractive Imperial ISB cover girl. And then it just turns south and she pulls a blaster on him. And it goes crazy from there because then you're having Fennec Shan in his ear and she's telling him to like what was she saying? She's like, walk a certain way or back up a little bit, keep backing up now, duck or something. And she would time her shots perfectly with like the wind. So like it would mask the people's bodies hitting the ground so that the Imperial person was like just talking with Dalen and not noticing like every once in a while one of her men would drop dead on the ground. It was like an expert sniper. I was like, wow, like she is that technical. She could time her shots to like this sound that's happening and nobody knows any different. And it was amazing because then she gets the killing shot on the guy. I'm like, oh, the girl. I'm like, oh man, right through the head. Like, amazing. Oh no, you're muted, I think. Uh-oh. We might have crossed some wires for a moment there,
Hello.
but
There we go. I'm
there we
back.
go.
There we go. No, you're right, and to bring up another point because you mentioned it. I love the use of the ISB. The ISB has just been
Yeah,
getting
so
getting
much.
the love since Andor
Hmm.
season 1, and we got it in Outlaws. We get it in this book. We get it in even Vader book. Like I've been loving seeing the ISB kind of be still the scary Imperial organized spy
Yep.
agency that's sort of all over the place, and that was cool too. Um, Obviously, we know that that's a big reason for that is because of a Slero, but yeah, that was cool too. I love just seeing the ISB and the espionage behind it, like how even
Yeah.
crime lords are like kind of scared of
Yeah.
the ISB because you never
Oh
know.
my. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like. Oh, this is another good. So this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this, but the more I'm thinking about the book that I read several weeks ago, the more I'm going, oh, but there was this moment, and then there was this moment, and this moment was really cool too. So,
Mm.
uh, you know, don't fault at me for saying just random scatterbrain moments of me thinking about this stuff because I'm having fun remembering, reminiscing here.
No,
Because
it's great.
one of the well, actually, a couple of things here. I'll mention the first thing, the stakeout scene. So this reminded me of Skeleton Crew. So you have Jalen, you have Andy cramped, and Andy's like cramped inside the speeder, and they're just like surveilling like this domestic suburban. I was thinking exactly of This is like Skeleton Crew. Like they're in one of those neighborhoods. They're just watching casually, and like Andy is just like cramped in this car basically, and he's like too big to fit in the seats. They're waiting and they're waiting. And Jalen's trying to do like small talk, and Andy doesn't understand what small talk is, so he's like taking it literally. And it was just this fun moment that's all happening, and meanwhile you have the ISB agent that is in the house doing all this stuff, and then they get into a high speed chase, and it goes from there. But like there's those quiet moments that I thought were just hysterical that just happening. Like, oh, we're getting like our real world stuff in Star Wars. Like we never seen, to my knowledge, in canon at least, like a stakeout in a neighborhood like that with Star Wars characters. I thought that was great.
I think it's the first time I ever heard the term CEO ever used in Star Wars, although I'm sure that's probably not true.
Wait, okay, so back up a minute because we had the Dr. Aphra comics that dealt with the Tag Agency or the Tag Corporation, and you had Domina Tag. I think she might have technically been a CEO of that company, but I don't know.
It's my own. I mean, the term itself. I mean, probably to some extent, but yeah. um, but no, that was great. Again, just the world building in this book, I think, was phenomenal as well. Just really good. Anything else you want to bring up? Or you got
Oh
fine.
yeah, this is probably the best one for me.
Okay.
So this is something I've dealt with personally.
Hmm.
Talking about he did such a great job. Mike Chen like injecting our real life scenarios into this book where it almost felt like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm in Star Wars with Larry David replaced by ND5 because there's a moment and I forget where it is,
Hmm.
but he goes into this. He's trying to get information. I think Jalen's doing his own thing to get information, and he sends Eddie out 5 on his first mission by himself to go get this information.
Mhm.
And I don't know if he goes to like a motor vehicle agency or something, but he goes in this place. This droid just walks in, and he wants to get information on this person.
Right.
So he goes up and he just like demands the cashier. He just walks past all the people waiting in line, and he just immediately just starts speaking to the person. Person's like, "Get in line." He's like, "What line?" The person was speaking very slowly, trying to get through his dull duranium plating head, going, "No, you have to take a ticket and then sit over there." This person's telling a droid this, and I'm thinking I've been in this situation where I go to motor vehicle and I have to wait for like 3 hours to get myself checked out of this place. And then D5, it's just like he storms off and he's just waiting and waiting, and then eventually like gets an astromech droid to like help him like slice into the system, and he's like he used to be like an ex like separatist droid. this
That must be awkward.
this was hilarious. And then he walks out of the place because he didn't need the ticket anyway. He just like hands it to the first person. That's like a good fortune thing. Like, "Oh, sir, do you want my ticket? Here you go." And it just walks off. And I'm like, this is great Star Wars right here.
Yeah, yeah. Mike Chen's really good at that. It's also kind of funny that Mike Chen's last book, Mike Chen didn't write anything else before this, right? His only other book.
Brotherhood, I think, was the last one.
Yeah, it is kind of funny how this is. I'm just kind of thinking about it because I'm thinking about Mike Chen's work now. This is kind of like the dark version of Brotherhood. Although Brotherhood gonna end dark to some extent too because of Revenge of the Sith. But but even more so where it's like the whole point of that book is Anakin and Obi-Wan kind of realizing, hey, we're probably more brothers than we are Padawan master. And with this, it's like Andy and Jalen could almost become brothers in a sense, but they don't. The actual living brothers betray each other. So it's like there's a brotherhood thematic in this book as well. It just ends in tragedy, where Brotherhood, the last book, ends in kind of semi acceptance. Although I guess in the
Yeah.
long run it won't. But that's Revenge of the Sith's problem. So I find that fascinating as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that was pretty awesome. The dichotomy of them for sure, for sure. Do you want to talk about? Oh yeah, and then the part. Okay, this is great. No, the real life scenario. Them going through the spaceport. I'm thinking exactly like, oh, they're going through TSA. They're going through like airport security. They're walking around, realizing how big the airport is, and I'm thinking that all the time, like, oh, I gotta walk all the way from Terminal 1 to 38 or something, and they're trailing by. This is where like the Andor stuff comes into play because it's like ND has this like proximity radar, sonar kind of stuff going on, where it's like, oh yeah, I can sense this person behind us, blah blah blah, and then next thing you know, they find a situation and he gets stunned and he gets down. Oh, this is a big one, and this is only because something I realized after I read the, I want to say after credits, but like the acknowledgments for Mike Chen.
oh,
So apparently, the Zabrak that's in that situation in the spaceport that ends up reviving Jalen is actually none other than the Jedi initiate that is in the Brotherhood novel. And the same with Vivert Stag. I don't know, Vivert Stag, who is the other female character that gets rescued. Apparently, these are 2 Jedi on the run.
oh wow! I remember the initiate from Brotherhood. Only because I was like, it's funny when I read that book originally, I was like, oh, I kind of wish she and Ahsoka could. I mean, she and Anakin could have been Padawan Master. That would have been fun. No hate to Ahsoka. I just thought I was like, oh, that would have been cute. But yeah, I remember that. Like, oh, that's really cool. Kind of seeing Mike Chen kind of take his character and see like what happened to them after Order 66.
Yeah,
That was cool. So yeah, that's a good moment as
because
well.
at one point, like towards the end of the book, like Jalen's like, "Well, how do you know that so and so is alive?" And she literally just straight up said, "Oh, I just have a feeling. It's just a feeling I have." And at that moment, I was like, oh, could she be force sensitive? Not knowing it was the same character from that book. So I went, oh my gosh, I didn't know the whole time I was reading it. So that was a cool moment there. Getting
That is,
Mike Chen to use those characters in his other stories, which is cool.
yeah, that was a good moment as well. Is there anything else that we haven't covered yet that you really wanted to talk about? I've sort of gone through my notes about world building.
Hmm. Well, like I said, I have about 3 or 4 I have 3 pages of non-double space notes, so I have a lot to go through. No, I think I covered from everything. Oh wait, oh big one, big one. The
Great.
Kira stuff with the Crimson Dawn.
Oh, yeah, great seeing Kira. Thank God. Anything just to see some Kira love in this book. That was great. I just like seeing Crimson Dawn in
Yeah,
general. It's a little. I get why they can't really say what happens to Crimson Dawn in between Solo and the comics because probably they want to keep that open for something eventually, hopefully. But it is cool just to see Crimson Dawn in action.
yeah,
It would have been cool if we could have seen Crimson Dawn earlier, just to kind of see like maybe is there like a difference between how Maul was running Crimson Dawn and how Kira does. Although we might also not they might not have allowed that because of Maul Shadow Lord this which is coming out this year. And it's
oh
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, we can't really tell you how Crimson Dawn was like in the early years because we're about to show you in this really cool series. Maybe, hopefully, multiple season. I don't know. I hope it is.
Please,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, but that was cool, and just it's just cool seeing Kira do her thing and be like she was in the comics. I thought that was really cool. Again, it's that world building. That world building,
yeah,
so cool.
exactly. Because at one point it's mentioned that Dryden Voss, he's alive and well at that point, which means okay, this is obviously before Solo Star Wars story. And that means that Maul is in the background pulling the strings, like up
Right.
like Palpatine does. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like Jalen has no idea how deep in the poodoo he is right now if he screws up with Crimson Dawn. But like I like how he played his hand and he was able to salvage the situation to getting his life saved and getting out of there before getting shot to death. Just like again, like bringing back those CEO talking skills of going, oh, I can make a deal, I can talk like this and sway their thoughts and whatnot. So again, I just love that idea that we're dealing with a non-combatant main character that is just going by his wits and going by his experience. And sometimes he flounders, but he learns from his mistakes for the most part. And then by the end of it, we get to see that full journey of like, oh yeah, he flaunts his stuff. He knows he's good at doing this. He's confident. And it's because of that experience over all these years of all these jobs that this is finally paying off for him. So he kind of gets like a good ending, like a nice ending in this. But then again, you come back to the ending and it's like, oh, well, we assume that every reader has played the game and knows even what happened to him. Because it's like you read the book and it's like, oh, he could still be alive for all we know. No, he's dead by that point.
Yeah, it's actually funny you mentioned it. It's like he got the CEO training he probably needed through being a crime person, then um, rather than learning from his rich parents. Which says a lot about being what you need to be a CEO. Maybe I don't know, but no, that's a great point. I remember. I also just love one moment. I forget what the words are, but it's like he's talking to the Huts, and he's like, "Well, it's nice and warm on Tatooine all the time." Not used to like you talk about the weather on Tatooine when you're talking like the Huts, and I just found that
Yeah,
funny, like as well. But yeah, that was a good moment as well. Seeing Kira. I'm looking
yeah.
through my notes. I don't really have anything that much. Again, I had like this one moment. Just I love. There's this one little. I actually did write one moment from the book
Uh-huh.
where ND5 is. It's from ND5 perspective. I'll just read it because I thought it was cool. He said, "Well, I monitor the rest of the conversation. I consider out. I don't know what this is from, but I just remember copying and pasting it. I consider our new contact logic. Despite working within the boundaries of the Empire for years, the system's subtleties are something that I still have not fully grasped. The CIS was a more of a disparate coalition of forces in politics, and with that, underlying directives often fell into achieving the goal as quickly as possible. The goal depending on which faction ran the operation. The Empire is the opposite, monolithic and inefficient. In many ways, the Empire's worst enemy is not any rebel faction, but its own commitment to churn. Given that context, Jalen's conversation partner has suggestions that make sense. I like that little moment of just ND5 talking about like how the Empire is not the CIS and Also reminds me of stuff from like Rise and Fall that kind of gets into like, yeah, the Empire's
Oh,
worst
okay.
enemies itself, than even the rebels. I'm not quite sure where from the book that is. I just remember like, oh, he's talking about his life in the CIS, which is cool. Thought I'd
Yeah.
give you any little insight into
No,
separatists.
that's cool because like these big sweeping organizations that span a galaxy, they all have their own innate qualities about them and
Hmm.
infrastructure. So it's cool, like when we get cut and dry logic of a droid just sitting there explaining to us like what the difference between these things are. And another thing I liked is just the integration. Again, this goes with the Crimson Dawn part towards the end, where when they're at the base, is like you have the auditor, who is the person that like fixed ND5 to do the assassination thing, and they find her and all that. But you get to see like, okay, she's legit an Imperial employee, and she is working inside of the Crimson Dawn. Like they're letting her work. Like they know she's a plant. I'm pretty sure they know she's an Imperial, but like she's integrated into a criminal syndicate, and that's just how the Empire works. Like they always trade with the Huts and all these different operations, which are illegal, but they just kind of sweep it under the rug. They're like, ah, we need each other to survive, kind of thing. So I like that we got more of a spotlight on that with this one. I was like, yeah, they actually need each other to survive. It's kind of crazy when they're dealing with organized crime, but that's how it is.
I mean, that's very much real world stuff too, right? Where it's like, the dictators are always like, we're gonna get rid of all the criminals and the law, the gangs and whatnot, and like, yeah, they'll get rid of like the small timers, like little militia
Yeah.
gangs and whatnot, but like the big crime organizations that are like mini countries in themselves, it's like, no, we know we can't really deal with them, or we could, but we just don't want to because it takes a while. So it's like Palpatine and Vader, like, all right, we'll make deals with all these organizations. Like, hey, you stay in your lane. You don't flaunt your money too much. We'll let you cause some chaos in like the Outer Rim and stuff like that because we don't want to deal with it. So, you control your little mini empires. We'll crush you if we have to. But, and the one point, just stay in your lane. We'll stay in ours. We'll make deals. It reminds me of a moment from the comics. I forget which one. Is it Hidden Empire? It's like after the war, where Palpatine like has all the crime bosses. He's talking to them. It's like, hey, I've let you do your little thing, but you're causing too much chaos in my empire. So stop fighting each other. Get- You're getting pulled tricked here by Kira. So stop it, or I'm sending Vader after you, and I will too. So yeah, it's very, very real world where it's like, yeah, the Empire's got agents everywhere. It just doesn't know we want to deal with it.
Hmm.
So that's such a good moment. Um,
That's
I
about it for me. I think I've covered everything I want to talk about.
same.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of final thoughts. I do agree with you in that I would not recommend this book to just anyone. Which is, to be fair, I feel that way about a lot of Star Wars books. But in terms of just the wider Star Wars fandom, I'd say it is a good book. I can't say it's a bad book, far
Yeah.
from it. But I say you have to go. I would recommend, or I would say, prerequisite: either watch Star Wars Outlaws cutscenes or have played the game and enjoyed the game. Because I think if you like the game and if you played the game, you will like this. I genuinely, Sky, I did. I mean, I didn't play the game, but I watched the game, and I genuinely, for the most part, liked this. So definitely as a tie-in to the game, I think it's pretty good. It's definitely better than the Jedi Fallen Order one. It's definitely, I maybe not as good as Inferno Squad. I really like that book.
Mm.
Um, I liked Alexander Freed's Battlefront Twilight Company book, although that has nothing to do with the game with no story campaign. But that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I definitely think I would recommend this to people who like the game and played the game or watched the game. Can't really recommend it outside of that, even if I do think it's a pretty good book, just in terms of an actual book that's written and engaging. So yeah, it's got a lot of good parts, but definitely it's made for a very slim audience. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but it's definitely just something to keep in mind. But yeah, overall, I still liked it.
Yeah, I echo your thoughts pretty much exactly.
Mhm,
there's a lot of good stuff here as I'll ring them up off the top, like a sentient droid characterization like we've never seen before in Star Wars, ND5.
mhm,
Come on, give us more stories. We know he's out there, whether it be with Jalen, with more stories, interstitial time between Solo and Empire Strikes Back, or hey, go into the post Return of the Jedi. We know we're not getting more stories with Kat, at least in the video game. So hey, why don't we just get that story that maybe would be a draft and put it into a novel as a sequel? We could get more thoughts of ND5 about Jalen, and it would even help this book a little bit in a way. Have a
mhm,
cool duology. I would love that. But
mhm,
yeah, it's same thing with Jalen just being an awesome character that is really layered and has a lot of motivations for what he is doing that makes
mhm,
sense, but also give us a really cool look at the underworld in a way that we're not used to. And the real world kind of funny moments that just ring true for me in certain situations I've been in, but with a Star Wars spin on it.
mhm.
Really enjoyed it. So yeah, I would, if you really like Outlaws, it's going to be a really fun, enjoyable book. If you haven't liked or played Outlaws, again, watch some videos online about it or something. But Mike Chen, always like his work so far. He's 2 for 2 with me, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he might write in the future.
Agreed, agreed. So with that, I think we'll call it. Let me get my banner. What happens when I don't have the banner for myself? Thank you, Chris, for joining us for a special bonus episode in place of Tractor Beam. That was a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is what happens. We have no comic books to discuss. We're going through a comic book drought, everybody. So I don't even know if we're doing a show next week because from my calendar, I don't think we're getting another Star Wars comic until Wednesday the 11th, which would be the Jar Jar Binks Keller and Beck one shot, which apparently is how Keller and Beck gets Jar Jar to join the Rebel Alliance or something crazy with the Rebel Alliance. I know it was previewed at Comic Con. So we're gonna have that in 2 weeks. I don't know if we're doing a show next week or not. So we might be here, we might not be. I do not know. But yeah, it's been a fun time, and it's nice to always talk about the other paper canon for a change.
Woo! Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining us. Of course, you can follow me at GID20234 on Blue Sky, GID234 on Blue Sky, on can.social, and of course at the SWU Blue Sky, and of course the Star Wars Underworld Discord. Where can they follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on twitter.com/StarRaptor for the latest on Star Wars, video games, Marvel, and more. And you can follow me primarily on my on my main content creation website, which is youtube.com/StarRaptor. We'll be going live this Sunday at 7 p.m. talking about Mall Shadow Lord's trailer. So be there, interact with us in the chat. We love to talk with you guys, give you shout outs and whatnot if you tune in live. But we're also on podcasts available around the globe. So just search Outer Rim Transmission. You'll find our audio stream of the podcast as well. But yeah, thanks for inviting me. This is really fun tonight.
Yeah.
Great conversation all around.
Yeah, it was great. I really good enjoyed it. And of course, Ion Cannons Mondays, 5:30 a.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll also be talking about Maul Shadow Lord and just Maul the character as we do a canon Maul look through. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you everyone for joining. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment if you like this book. I think so many of actually no, we can't do that yet because the book's not out. This is like one of those early reviews. So dang. Come back and watch this book because this was a spoiler review. But yeah, once you do read the book, leave us the comments. And until next time, everybody, let's blow this thing and head home.